When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger, where you'll find over 30,000 mouth-watering choices that excite your inner foodie. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices, plus extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week. You can also save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with fuel points. More savings and more inspiring flavors make shopping Kroger worth it every time. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
We took it all. We brought them to our land. An endless night, ember hot and icy cold. The rage of the earth. We made this curse. Carved it in the blood on our backs. We did not see. We could not, but she did. And in the end...
What will I become?
Senua's Saga. Hellblade 2.
Play it now with Game Pass.
Smoothie King's new lemonade lineup is here.
Lemonade, lemonade, the Smoothie King way.
Try a strawberry guava lemonade SK refresher.
Over ice.
A power up in a cup.
Energize.
Or a blueberry lemonade smoothie.
Blend it up in your cup.
Made with real fruit, real juice for a real sipping good summer.
Yum, yum, gotta get some.
Smoothie King's new lemonade lineup, all for a limited time.
Who's thirsty?
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Red, your lunchtime catch-up on all things Liverpool FC on a Wednesday on which little is happening, but we have had the announcement of 8 players who've been released by the club. And obviously, we knew Thiago and Joel Matip were leaving. Their contracts had expired. But the following players have been released. Adam Lewis, the left-back, I think it looks like he's probably going to go to Newport County. Matthias Muzalewski, I think there's a disappointing one for a lot of people who had quite high hopes for him, but he never got the opportunities for whatever reason. Melkamu Fraundorf has been released, and again, he's one that people had high hopes for. Klopp had involved him a few years ago, and then he kind of seemed to have fallen out of favour, but he moves on. Luke Hewitson moves on. He's a 19-year-old goalkeeper. Cody Pennington, a 17-year-old midfielder, has been released. Niall Osborne, a 19-year-old defender, Francis Gaime, a 17-year-old defender, and Nathan Giblin, an 18-year-old defender. They have all been released. Training goalkeepers Reece Truman and Jacob Poitras have been given new contracts or offered new contracts, as has Adrian. I mean, if he's just staying as a training goalkeeper, the way Andy Lonergan was a couple of years ago, the way he himself has been in recent years, that's one thing. But the idea of using a non-homegrown slot on him is quite frustrating. Now, I know a couple have opened up because Thiago has left and because Joel Matip has left, and there might be one or two that open up through sales, like if Kostas Tsimikas leaves, for example, that would open one up. But still, yeah. I know he's popular, but like maybe their plan is for him to transition to the coaching team. I know he's been doing quite a bit of that in the last couple of years, you know, helping out with some of the coaching. So maybe that's the plan. Maybe Taffarel has had a hand in that, because I believe they're quite close. So, yeah, I mean, look, he might not sign it. He has interest, apparently, from La Liga, so he might choose to go back to Spain. It's obviously a decision he'll have to sit down and make with his family. But it is what it is. Ultimately, he's never going to play, so it is kind of irrelevant. Diogo Jota scores on return from injury as Kelleher ends Szoboszlai's record. Diogo Jota marked his first game back since injury with a goal for Portugal, while Caoimhín Kelleher helped end a 14-game unbeaten run for Dominic Szoboszlai. Dominic did score an absolute worldie of a free kick. But Caoimhín Kelleher made some big saves in the game, and I suppose it's a good thing for Ireland to win a game, because we haven't won many in the last few years. And to beat a decent team like the Hungarians is a positive. Thought Marco Rossi, the Hungarian manager, with what he said afterwards was well out of order. Seemed to be trying to pit players against each other as well, which just seemed very, very poor. Not sure he's going to survive much longer if he continues to take shots at by far his best player, who will likely have significant influence. And if Dominic decides that Mr. Rossi is not the man to lead the national team, Mr. Rossi will potentially find himself looking for another job. Bad news on the international front. Ben Doak has suffered another injury, and he had obviously been included in the Scottish squad for the Euros. Now, whether or not he would have played much, I don't know, but Doak had missed, obviously, a huge chunk of the season with injury. But now he's suffered another problem, and he's going to be out for however long. It's not expected to be serious, but still, at a young age, continually getting injuries is not a good sign. And you would hope it doesn't scupper the possibility of him getting a loan for next season, because at this point in his career, he probably needs to go and play somewhere. Just considering the way he was fast-tracked, I do wonder if the injuries we've seen him and Cade Gordon suffer are an argument against the fast-tracking that we saw with both of them. I know Harvey kind of got fast-tracked as well, but it was in a different way. He was sent to Blackburn on loan to get his reps and his minutes in. Maybe it's not the smartest idea for us to be bringing these 16-year-olds into the club and immediately launching them into senior football. But then maybe that's the only way we can get them, you know? Moving on, what else did This Is Anfield have for us? Liverpool set lofty Caoimhín Kelleher price tag. Goalkeeper open to transfer. This is by David Lynch. Liverpool are prepared to demand a fee far in excess of 20 million. I mean, at this point after the season he's just had, his value will certainly be at its highest point. Far in excess of 20 million. What does that even mean? Like, is it 25? Is it 30? Would it be 20 plus add-ons? I know James Trafford moved last summer for 19 million, but a couple of things that stand in his favour. Number one, he's a likely future England number one. So he's got that going for him. He's also quite a bit younger than Caoimhín. He was 20 when Burnley signed him. he has a lot more experience than Queeving in terms of senior football. He had played 85 games prior to the season just passed. He's now at the 108 mark. And admittedly, that had been at a lower level. That was playing in League One on loan for Accrington Stanley, and then on loan for Bolton. He was at Bolton with Conor Bradley. But he had just played a lot more. Queeving, though, has gotten a lot of big games under his belt, especially this past season. The other comparison then that's often made is Gavin Basunu. Now, he moved for 12 million 2 years ago, but again had a lot more experience to his name. He had played 78 senior games, again at a lower level, playing in League One. Actually, it was 82 because he played 6 games for Shamrock Rovers. He played 32 for Rochdale on loan and then 46 for Portsmouth on loan. Like Basunu, he is Irish rather than English, so he doesn't get the English tax, but he is younger. He was, again, 20 when he moved. So the age probably counts in his favour against Queeving, but Queeving is probably more ready-made, so that maybe is something in his favour. Should be an interesting competition for the Irish job once Basunu comes back. Now, it's a torn Achilles that he's currently out with, so there's no guarantee he comes back and recovers a high level with an injury like that, especially as a goalkeeper. So we'll have to keep an eye on him. But it should be a good battle for the Irish number one. Adam Beattie has written a very interesting piece on This Is Anfield about Alexis and how signing in number 6 would really free him up and open up what he can do in our team. And you would absolutely hope that the smart people in charge are looking at that and thinking that has to be a priority, because it absolutely has to be a priority. There are some outstanding options out there for that position. I keep seeing people say, oh, there's no good defensive midfielders. There might be no defensive midfielders that you can think of. There are plenty of very good defensive midfielders that we could go and buy who would hugely improve our team. We'll go to Liverpool.com. If you're wondering, am I going to avoid talking about the Standard Chartered thing? The answer is yes, largely because I actually just haven't bothered to read the stuff yet. I will get to it, and tomorrow I'll probably talk about it. But, are we surprised that Standard Chartered are a terrible set of lads? AXA are a terrible set of lads, and yet we're still proudly sponsored by them. So I don't think there's anything we as fans can really do. Let's see. Liverpool has no choice over possible monster Alisson transfer offer. We have plenty of choices. Liverpool has double 125 million transfer plan that could see repeat of Darwin Núñez move. We'll come back to that. Manchester United has 65 million bid rejected for Liverpool target.
We took it all. We brought them to our land. An endless night, ember hot and icy cold. The rage of the earth. We made this curse. Carved it in the blood on our backs. We did not see. We could not, but she did. And in the end...
What will I become? Senua's Saga. Hellblade 2.
Play it now with Game Pass.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac, and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes, and games consoles. Visit libertyshield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
As Chelsea closes in, we'll come back to that. There's a couple of pieces about Arne Slot. There's a couple of pieces about Van Dijk. There's a piece about Michael Edwards and a plan of action. Liverpool's mini Messi finally got Klopp chance before being released. That is Musialowski. Neves already made 130 million admissions. Liverpool could capitalise on Man United's setback. That's João Neves, a player we have no need for, frankly. A very, very good player. Now, I suppose you could play Alexis as a 10 and play Dominic off the left, Mo off the right, and Darwin up front. And then bring in João Neves and a defensive midfielder. But frankly, as much as I think he's a really, really talented player, I think he would struggle with the physicality of the Premier League. He's very, very small. He's listed at 5'9". I would say he's closer to 5'7", and he's very lightweight. And while it's one thing in the Portuguese league to run around and bundle into people, the Premier League, I think he would get booted into oblivion. He strikes me as the type of midfielder that Spain, Italy continue to grow, continue to develop, and then later in his career, I could see him moving to the Premier League, but not at this point. I certainly don't think at this point he would be... Look, he'd be good. That's not the issue. He'd be good. And in time, he would adapt and develop. The problem is, if you're paying the £100 million buyout, you need instant performance. You can't pay that type of money and say, well, in 2 or 3 years, he'll be ready and he'll be ready to perform at his best level. You need him walking in and performing at his best level right now. So if we were to move Alexis to the 10, play Dominic left side, Mo right side, and Darwin as the 9, and we wanted a defensive midfielder and a kind of a metronome in midfield, I mean, Adam Wharton is the one, isn't he? Like, Adam Wharton's just the best fit. And I know Palace would be hesitant to sell, but, like, let's be really honest about who Crystal Palace are. They know where they sit in the food chain. They've never blocked a player from leaving. They set a price, and if you meet that price, they will accept. And if you were to turn around to them tomorrow and say, look, here's 70 million for Adam Wharton, who you paid 18 million for, rising to 22 6 months ago, I would bet they'd take it. And I think with a 20-year-old midfielder like him, who has that level of composure, that level of quality on the ball, I mean, to me, he reminds me so much of Michael Carrick. I think you can justify spending that type of money on him because of the ceiling and the longevity you'll get from him. I mean, I'd love to see us go and get Wharton and Archie Gray and maybe just get some cheaper defensive midfielder that can do a short-term job, like a younger, slightly better version of Endo, but have Gray developing into that role, have Wharton, and then between those two and Bajcetic, who you could play with either of them, because either of them can be the sitter. Now, if Wharton and Gray play together, you're going to get Gray going box to box a lot more. Wharton will sit and hold, but Bajcetic can go box to box. Or you can play Gray and Bajcetic and have Gray sit because he's done that before. you had those three for those two positions, plus Curtis Jones, obviously, and others. But specifically, if you had those three, just given the ages and profiles of them, and you could develop them over the next few years, like Wharton's ready to play now. You get that defensive midfielder who's ready to play now, and have Besetic and Gray coming behind them. I mean, you'd be locked in midfield for a long, long time with likely three, well, I would say likely two elite level players in Wharton and Gray. Besetic, the injury is the concern. The guy missed the best part of a year. I know he came back and he played twice for 56 minutes or 60 minutes or something like that. But he missed a year, basically, 14 months, something like that. That's a concern at that age. That is a concern. And I know people want to say, oh, the club were holding bullshit. He was injured. He was injured. They didn't sit him out for an entire year because of an injury that he'd suffered the previous season. Because he'd had pre-season, he'd come back, he was playing. He clearly got injured again. And they didn't want to go the surgical route because he'd already had one surgery. So yeah, at the end of it was them trying to rebuild him in the way they tried to do at Naby. But the injury, the possibility of reoccurrence is the concern there. And for those that said it was growing problems, I mean, horseshit. Like, he came back the same size he was when he left. He added a bit of muscle because he was in the gym, but he didn't grow 4 inches the way some people were trying to say. He didn't all of a sudden become a tank of a young fella. But if you had Wharton, Gray and Besetic to develop together as a trio long term, because you could easily play the three of them together as well. If the three of them demanded that they be played, you could change the shape. But yeah, I would rather have Adam Wharton in the Premier League than João Neves, especially considering I do think he'd be 25, 30 million less. Manchester United, the player that United had the bid rejected for is João Neves. Now, it is 90minute.com who are reporting that they made a bid, and Record in Portugal are saying the same. They're shit outlets. You wouldn't believe an absolute word that they told you. Chelsea are signing Tosin Adarabioyo. Good centre-back, no question. I would have happily taken him at Liverpool as a Joel Matip replacement, but I mean, he should have been going to Newcastle to play and start regularly. I mean, him and Botman, when Botman comes back from the knee, that's a good pairing with Livramento right back and Lewis Hall left back. You could look at that for the next 4 or 5 years and say, okay, well, they're set in terms of, I mean, look, if they can find an upgrade on Tosin in a year or two, do that. But for now, anyway, they're set at centre-back. And worst case, in 2 or 3 years, he becomes the third centre-back. But he'd play a lot there. He's gone to Chelsea for the money. I mean, I don't see him being a starter quality player for a team that has ambitions to win the league. Now, you could say Newcastle will have ambitions to win the league. They've got Eddie Howe in charge. They don't have ambitions to win it now. But Chelsea do. Like, Chelsea want to win the league this coming season. They're not going to, but they want to. They won't do it with Tosin. He makes too many mistakes. He makes too many mistakes for an elite level centre back. He doesn't make many by like Dejan Lovren standards, but he makes too many based on who we see playing for the elite clubs. Liverpool is reportedly interested in making a double raid on one club. So what crappy outlet is reporting this? Tutto Juve. You might as well ask Ivan Schwakov. Now, it's been reported that we like Ederson. Last year, it was reported that we liked Teun Koopmeiners when the other people were running recruitment. It's very unlikely we would want Teun Koopmeiners now. And again, if we're going to buy Teun Koopmeiners, just go and buy Adam Wharton, who's younger, has a much higher ceiling, is more mobile and more suited to us as a club. Let's see. Ryan Sessegnon is a free agent. Him, Eric Dyer, and Ivan Perisic are all leaving Tottenham on frees. Chelsea and Liverpool allegedly keen on Michael Olise. Apparently, his release clause is only for Champions League clubs. So that rules out Chelsea and United in terms of being able to get him at the release clause. So they'd have to pay whatever Palace would want. And if Palace are smart, they'll just say, well, 100 million. Because, like, he's that level of talent. Liverpool could face competition for Santiago Jimenez. It's hard to face competition for a player you're not actually interested in, isn't it? Well, maybe we are. I doubt it. I don't think we're going to look for a 9 this summer. I think it's been pretty clearly laid out that Darwin is the 9. We've also got Jota and Gakpo, so there's no reason for us to go for a 9 this summer unless Gakpo and Diaz left. I think Diaz will leave, and I don't think we'll sell two forwards, so I think Gakpo stays another year. Yeah, highly unlikely we're going to look for a striker. Danny almost speaks out of interest. I don't imagine he's a player we'll look for, but he is a good player. Levi Colwill transfer impossible, according to Give Me Sport. I mean, have we ever actually really been in for Levi Colwill properly? Like, other than last summer, it seems unlikely. And I'm not sure Will Lancaster, for writing for Give Me Sport, would have any idea what Liverpool feel or don't feel. And certainly Ben Jacobs definitely wouldn't know, because Ben Jacobs, who I note here, is an absolute spoofer. Danger Ben is the only real name for him. And if you don't understand why, just Google Ben Jacobs BBC studio and enjoy. There's a piece about Liverpool's homegrown quota on Liverpool.com. On to Anfield Watch. Has Maguire written anything? He has indeed. Man City must be punished, otherwise the Premier League as we know it is dead. You may or may not be aware that City are trying to sue the Premier League in what is one of the more laughable things I've ever seen, trying to pretend that they're just trying to stand up to the elite and that they're fighting for the smaller clubs, referring to it as the tyranny of the majority. Like, what a bunch of cunts. And I wouldn't normally use that word, but I use it all the time on Twitter. More of a social experiment than anything. But my God, they're a bunch of heinous cunts. Just throw them out of the league. At this point, just throw them out of the league. Because everybody's fed up with them. Bin them. If Newcastle want to go down scrapping with them, bin them as well. And let's historically punish Chelsea as well, because everybody knows they cheated to win everything. So let's just get rid of them all and go back to an actual fair playing field, an even playing field. Former Liverpool player named as masked rapper D-Day, thanks to AI software. That is Shea Ojo, I believe. Thuram talks, Reds enter Murillo war contact made for Turkey. Wouldn't actually believe any of those rumours, to be quite honest. They all just seem quite lazy. We'll have a look at AnfieldIndex.com, and there we will end for today. There is a Piece about Cody Gakpo, who was apparently close to signing for Manchester United. Piece about Queven Kelleher. A piece about João Neves, and 2 pieces about Arne Slot. And then podcast-wise, there is a new transfer show with Trev and Dave Davis. There is a Molby on the spot entitled Pints with Lothar. Now, I haven't listened to this yet. I'm hoping that's Lothar Matthäus. I can't think of any other Lothar that it might be, so I'm hoping it is. So I will be listening to that. There's the new Under Pressure. If you haven't heard it, make sure you listen to that. And for the love of God, listen to the new Buzz podcast. Myself and Trev went over Bodkin. It's very good. And the podcast is even better. So listen to our podcast. We've got an even better one coming this week. I think it's the best film we've done, and I think it's the best podcast we've done. So be sure to listen to all of those, and I will see you all tomorrow. We also, by the way, Transfer Committee Part 2, where we look at the first 3 positions coming out tonight. We're recording it tonight, so it'll be out immediately afterwards. That'll do. I'll see you all tomorrow. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at AnfieldIndex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.
Sports Social Podcast Network.